What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. In today's video, we are going to be creating 2 more looks with the Lovers palette from Cosmic Beauty. I have already featured this palette here on my channel, but this is more of a part 2 to give you a little bit more inspiration, but I will have that video linked down below in the description box in case you missed it and you want to see some swatches and hear more details on this palette. But I've been kind of revamping the way that I'm doing my content here on my channel because I want to give you better videos with better reviews, and one of the first ways I thought of doing that is to feature more looks with the newer palettes that are coming out before I include them in a palette ranking video. I mean, I'm already creating looks with these palettes anyway, so I might as well film them for y'all, and y'all sound like you were kind of into it, and I'm here for it as well. But I will have this palette as well as everything I am wearing and I used in today's video to complete my looks linked and listed down below in the description box. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But without further ado, let's zoom in, prime my eyes, and get into creating our looks. Alright y'all, so per usual, my eyes are primed and ready to go with my MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly, and I'm looking at the palette versus the shades that I have left. So what I like to do is take a picture of my palette, and as I use a shade, put a little X on it. That way I can keep track of what I've used and what I haven't, because I like to make sure that I use each shade in the palette at least one time before I give you my final thoughts on it. And based off of the shades that I have left, I think we can get through the rest of the shades today. So my first look is going to be a little monochromatic because I want to play with this quint up here. So I'm actually going to start with this mid-tone pink shade, which is called Attraction, and I am going to fluff that into my crease. So I'm going to pick up let's go with this one, a BK Beauty 202 brush, just a big fluffy brush, and I'm going to start by kind of fluffing this into like the outer half of my crease and kind of blowing out my outer corner a little bit. I don't want to bring it all the way over because I think I want to go in with that lighter kind of bubblegummy pastel pink shade and kind of do a nice soft gradient on my lid. So I'm just going to buff and blend this out here. Now this is definitely more of a pastel leaning palette is what I have come to know based off of just the shades that I've already played with, which I'm not mad about. I love that Cosmic Beauty brought us a pastel leaning palette, but it's a little different from the brand. We're used to getting shades that are more bright, vibrant, saturated, grungy, and things like that, and I think this is a lot of fun. So I'm going to bring that shade down onto my lower lash line as well, just kind of blending it about halfway over because like I said, I'm going to go back with that pastel bubblegummy pink shade and bring it into the inner portion and kind of wrap it around to meet up. And then of course we are going to put some depth in that outer corner as well. So with that same brush, I'm going to go into this shade up here, which is called Unconditional. And like I said, I'm going to pop that in the inner half of my lid and my lower lash line. So I'm just going to pick that shade up and I'm going to start right here on the inner portion of my crease, kind of packing it on and blending it towards that first shade that I put down. I do want to build this up just a little bit more because I want to get a little bit more impact with it. I probably should have gone in with a white eyeshadow primer to do this, and I didn't even think about it. So I'll have to play around with that a little bit more. Maybe I'll do a short with a white eyeshadow primer and see if it kind of like gives these shades a little bit more of a punch. I am very fair and pastels usually show up really good on me, but I always like to test things out in multiple ways. So next we're going to go into this deep plummy purple shade right here, which is called Harmony, and we're going to build up a little bit of depth in this outer corner. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a Sigma E42 brush, and I'm going to go in pretty lightly handed. I don't want this to get away from me and like really deepen up this entire look. So I'm just going to kind of press it right there, and then once I have most of the pigmentation gone off my brush, I can start to disperse it and soften it and really kind of blend out those edges. Now I may need to go back with that other shade and kind of soften it a little bit more because this is a very pigmented shade, which is what I expect from the brand, but it's very blendable. It's working really nicely. And I'm going to take that shade down onto the outer portion of my lower lash line as well. So per usual, just kind of wrapping it around out here, bringing that depth out and down onto my lower lash line. So I'm going back with just a little bit more of that shade Attraction, which is the very first shade that we put down. And I'm just going right along the edges of that deep purple shade just to kind of soften it a little bit more and reiterate the shade a little bit. Because like I said, I don't want that shade to be the main focus of this look. I just want to bring that little bit of depth out here. All right, so for all over the lid, we have a couple of choices, and it's gonna be these two shades right here. So I am gonna swatch them out on the back of my hand so I can kind of get a better feel for what they look like and how I wanna place them on the lid. So we're gonna go in with this one first, which is called Choices, and then this other one is going to be Connection. So picking up the shade Choices on my finger, I'm gonna swatch it out right here on my hand. That is really pretty. It has almost a black base to it. It's not super deep, but very smooth, very reflective. And the other shade is going to be Connection, and this is a really pretty multi-chrome that is going to look so beautiful on the lid. So kind of what I'm thinking is maybe putting this one all over the lid and maybe popping that one in the center and a little bit on my inner corner. Maybe we'll bring in something else for the inner corner, but we are going to start right here with this shade. So I'm going to go ahead and prime my lid with my Sugar Drizzle eyeshadow primer really quick to give me a little bit of a sticky base, and then we're going to pop that shade all over the lid. So we're starting with the shade Choices, which is the darker of the two shades. I just picked it up on my BK Beauty 203 brush, sprayed it with a little bit of MAC Fix Plus, and I'm gonna start by pressing this all over my lid, bringing it over towards my inner corner, but not really in my inner corner because I want to leave that open for something lighter. I'm gonna bring it over to the outer corner and just kind of press until I have all that pigment off, and then I'll go back and start to blend. That way I can get rid of any harsh lines and kind of make everything as seamless as I possibly can. Sometimes you might have to go back in with the matte shades that you used in your crease just to kind of soften things a little bit. And I think that's probably what I'm gonna do since that is such a harsh contrast between the two shades. So I picked up a little bit of that pastel pink shade, which is called Unconditional, and I'm just going right along the edges of that shimmer shade that I just put down, just to kind of soften it and blend it just a little bit so we don't have that harsh line going on, and that just give it such a better gradient on the lid. So next I'm going to go with that shade Connection, which is this shade right here. I just picked it up on a Singe Beauty EO1 brush. I'm going to spray it once again, and I'm going to start by popping this in my inner corner and kind of blending it up onto my lid. And then I am going to bring it down to the lower lash line just a little bit, kind of dispersing it. That way we don't have just a blob of brightness and color on the inner corner. And then I probably am going to go back and pop a little bit of it in the center of my lid just to give an extra added pop. All right, so I picked up a little bit more of that shade on my finger, and I'm just gonna pop it right here in the very center and kind of blend it over just a little bit. So that way it's gonna kind of softly gradient from that inner corner all the way to the out corner without having any harsh lines going on. All right, y'all, so this is the first completed look, and I think this turned out really pretty. It is very soft, very romantic looking, and I really like the pinks and purples in this palette. But let's go over what I used to finish this look. So in my lower waterline, I went in with the NYX Epic Wear Liner in the shade Pink Spirit. I lined my lid with my ZC Liquid Liner, and for mascara, I went in with the Tarte Lights Camera Lashes mascara. But let's pop back into this palette for our second look because I want to do something a little kind of dark and dramatic, see how smoky we can get this palette to go. And we do have some greens over here still to play with, and these two shades down here. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start with this green shade up here, this sort of dark grungy green, which is called Trust. And I'm going to press this all over my lid and kind of blend it up into my crease a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a BK Beauty 205 brush. It's just like an angled packing brush. I'm kind of running out of clean brushes over here. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit and I'm just going to press this all over my lid. I am going to bring it over to my inner corner and I'm going to bring it into my crease, and once I have it in my crease and dispersed really nicely, I'll go back and kind of blend it out a little bit. So I'm just going to build and pack. I'm not blending quite yet. Okay, so now that I have that shade kind of pressed all over my lid and kind of buffed out a little bit above my crease, I'm gonna go in with this black shade down here and kind of build up my outer corner a little bit. So I didn't really worry too much about the outer corner. I was putting that first shade down. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up with a Morphe M506 brush, and I'm gonna go in very lightly handed because I have a feeling this is going to be very, very pigmented. And I'm just gonna press it right here in my very outer corner. Yep, building up a little bit more depth and giving that smokiness out here. I'm not gonna kind of like disperse this and fluff it out here. I just want to keep the darkness on the lid, and I am gonna go back in with some other colors in just a minute. And I'm trying to decide if I want to kind of smoke out the lower lash line as well, or if I want to keep it kind of light and bright. But I'm thinking I want to deepen it up. Yeah, I think that's gonna look really pretty. So I'm gonna bring a little bit of this down onto the outer portion of my lower lash line as well, kind of wrapping it around, but I'm not bringing it very far over. And then I'm gonna go back in with that first shade that I used and kind of fluff it along the lower lash line. All right, so I picked up some more of that shade Trust on the same brush, and I'm just going to press this along my lower lash line, bringing it all the way over to my inner corner. And I'm actually gonna kind of bring it into my inner corner. Like I said, I really wanna see how dark and smoky we can take this palette. So I'm just gonna kind of press it along my lower lash line. I'm not fluffing or blending it or bringing it really far down because we are gonna go with some other shades to do that. All right, y'all, we are looking dark and smoky, but I want to soften these edges up just a little bit and give a soft gradient to the lid. So we're going to go into this shade right here, which is called Mutual, and it's actually a matte with like some sparkles in it. So it's not going to look real sparkly as I buff it out, but if you really pack it on the lid, you can get the sparkles to show up. Then I'm going to pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO3 brush. It's just a big fluffy brush. And like I said, I'm just going to kind of buff out the edges of what I have going on. So I'm going to tap it off and get rid of any excess, and I'm going to go in very light-handed, just right along the perimeter of what I already have on my lid, just kind of buffing and blending and softening, bringing it up towards my brow bone, kind of blending it out a little bit out here, creating some more shape, and like I said, getting that soft gradient. I'm going to bring that shade down onto my lower lash line as well. So I'm just going right below those other two shades that I have down, just kind of doing the same thing that I did up on my lid around my crease area. All right, y'all, so we have one shade left in this palette to use, and it's going to be this shimmer shade down here, which is called Loyal. It's a really pretty kind of translucent base gunmetal silver shade. So I am going to put a swatch of this on my hand really quick so I can show you what it looks like on its own, because it is going to come off a little bit different as I put it on the lid over that dark green shade. So I'm going to go ahead and pick it up with my BK Beauty 203 brush, and I am going to spray it with some MAC Fix Plus per usual, and we're going to press this all over the lid. Now, I did not prime my lid with my Sugar Drizzle primer or like a tacky base because I don't want to lift any of that green. So I am just going to rely on the brush and the MAC Fix Plus, and I am going to press this all over my lid, bringing it over to the inner corner, bringing it over to the outer corner, kind of buffing out those edges and softening everything and really making sure that everything is nice and blended. Now to finish off this look, I want to go in with this shimmer shade up here to bring a little bit of lightness and brightness to the inner corner. So that shade is called Promise. I'm going to swatch it out on my hand like I always do. And like I said, we're going to pop this on the inner corner. I just think it's going to give a lot of contrast and just the perfect pop that I'm looking for. So I'm going to pick that up with my Singe Beauty EO1 brush. I just cleaned it off really good, spray it with my MAC Fix Plus, and we're just going to pop this right in the inner corner and kind of blend it up onto the lid just a little bit. I don't want to overdo it. I really just want to kind of concentrate it right here on that little blank space. Yes, I absolutely love that. All right, y'all, so this is the second completed look with this palette, and I absolutely love it. I think it turned out beautiful. I'm really impressed with how dark and smoky I was able to take a pastel palette, but this has to be my favorite look I've created with this palette. I just think it is so incredibly beautiful. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn the lights down, see the shimmer, the shift, the sparkle, and close out this video. So I did go in with my same liquid liner and mascara that I used in the first look, and then in my lower waterline, I went with the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal Liner in the shade Olive. Alright, y'all, so before we close out this video, I want to give you some of my final thoughts on this palette now that I've played with every single shade in here, and I do think this is a beautiful palette. I think the formula in here is incredible. It's exactly what I know and love from the brand. I didn't have any issues with the performance of the mattes in here. They were all nice and pigmented. They built up really nicely. They blended out beautifully. I didn't get any patching, skipping, or anything like that. I got a little bit of fallout with some of the darker shades, and it was mostly this black shade right here when I went into my very outer corner, but it was minimal. It was like the tiniest little bit. It really didn't go past like right here on top of my cheekbone, and it just kind of fluffed away. It didn't hang around or anything like that. But I like the shade selection in here. I like that we have a pastel palette, but we have lots of depth in here. It's not just very one note or flat. You can get a lot of variety as far as the looks go. Like you have seen, I've gotten something very light and blown out, romantic looking, or I can take it really dark and grungy. And you can do the same thing with the blues and the purples and the browns, just depending on how you place the shades in here. My only little gripe is that I wish that we had more lighter shimmers in this palette. A lot of them are very deep or mid-tone. Some of them do have a little bit of a translucent base, so you can kind of work with that, but I wish we had a couple shades that were lighter, and that's just a personal preference thing. I didn't have any issues with the performance of the shimmers in here. I thought they were all very beautiful, very pigmented. They laid down really nicely. I did get a little bit of fallout when I went in with this shade over here, but I didn't have that tacky base on my lid, so I kind of expected it a little bit. I have a couple little shimmers kind of hanging around, but most of them did fluff away, but nothing's accentuating texture. I haven't had any issues with creasing with this palette. I think it's beautiful. It's very well done, and if you're looking for a good pastel palette with a lot of range and depth to it, this is a really good option. But that is going to complete this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Let me know if you like seeing this part 2 with more looks from different palettes. Let me know if you picked this one up, if it's on your wish list. I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation later at that comment section. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.